and be reactive, and that's not a bad thing. That's kind of what's going to make her kind of a higher level prospect. But I ultimately just need to have control of that power, and when I do, that's what's going to make her really handy and soft. So basically this whole process isn't to get her tired, and it's not to wear her down or anything along those lines. Basically what I'm looking for is if I can get her to where I want her to be mentally and have her never break a sweat or never start breathing hard, that's ideal, because again, once I run out of horse, I run out of the ability to teach. So what I'm looking for here is for her to develop a little better rhythm in her feet, not be pulling on me, not be so, you can see how when I smooch her at pressure, she kind of lurches out of here. And by doing this and allowing her to, what I say, explore this round pen, is essentially I'm showing her that all these other doors are locked and that wherever I'm at is the only relief. But again, she needs to go feel this around this whole round pen. And if we were out in the arena, it would be the same thing. You know, I don't necessarily care where we're at. You know, we could be out in the middle of a big 1,000-acre pasture, and if she takes me clear to one end and clear back to the other, essentially all I have to do is just go wherever she goes and maintain that correctness. And when I do, that's where, you know, in the final product, you can go out to a pasture and smooch at one, and they'll come to you when they have 1,000 other acres to run to, just because in their mind, you know, there is no better option than to be with you. So she just knows the value of being in here versus going out there where all the work's at. So keep that hip. Good. And so again, I would way rather, from my program and my training perspective, I would way rather have one go through that level of disconnect and that over-responsiveness so that I can get to the point where they move freely, they respond really subtle, and they aren't pulling on me, and I don't have to apply so much pressure to get a big response when I need it. So, and if she does pull on me, it's not a tug of war. Again, she's pulling on me, and her power to do that comes through her feet. So again, just take back control of those feet, whether it's through moving her hip or her shoulder or whatever it might be, or redirecting her direction. So even something as simple as that, like she did way more than she had to right there, but it's just through a heightened level of commitment. But the big difference between the way she did that and the alternative is she made a big move and really got through there, but then was instantly back with me again. So that's a big difference between doing what she did as far as really jumping through there and then running off and banging against the panels. So this hip's dragging behind, so just tap it. And again, that's where having one that's a little more responsive allows me to make this a little easier to deal with, because say a duller horse or one that doesn't care about pressure as much, you know, on her I can get that little bit of a change just through barely touching her. So say a level 1 pressure, you know, and so again, that allows her to not have anxiety about me touching her hip or moving her hip. Now on the other hand, if I had one that was really dull, in order to get them to make this little bit of correction right there, you know, on them I'd maybe have to tap them. And I might have to tap a little harder and a little harder, and it might be a 30-second ordeal instead of a 1 or 2 second deal. Same thing here. Again, she's not really doing anything wrong, she's just doing way more than she has to. But again, I'll take that all day, because that effort is the building blocks for the entire program. So, okay. So now I'll start coming in here and reassuring her that me being in here is a bad deal, because again, especially on a really responsive or overreactive horse, a big part of it is especially in the beginning stages, just building their confidence. And from that, as their anxiety leaves, then you can really start to capitalize on that. So, and I'm not against them moving their feet either. You know, I talk about a lot, you know, and I'll probably talk about it here later too. You know, I'm not against a horse moving their feet as long as it's controlled. You know, again, there's a big difference between like what she's doing right here and one that's running away on me. You know, she's not running away, she's just trying to respond to my position. So I'll take that, you know, and again, especially on a really responsive one, you know, I think about it as, you know, every time they move their feet, they're letting steam off, you know, and I use the boiling teapot example. You know, being able to move their feet allows that steam to escape, you know, where on the other hand, especially on a really reactive one, you know, I could kind of, for lack of better terms, pin them in a corner and force them to be there, you know, but no different than me, if I was stuck in a corner and you know, was being forced to be there by somebody I didn't know or somebody I didn't want to be around, that creates tension, anxiety. It makes you be aggressive, whatever it might be, to get out of that scenario. Where if I was able to at least shuffle my feet and kind of continue to move around and kind of think about the process, you know, I'd probably stay a lot more relaxed for a longer time, you know, and then you know, maybe by the end of it, you'd be friends with the person, but I dang sure wouldn't be friends with somebody that locked me in the closet. So it's kind of the same deal. You know, they need to be able to know that they're not forced or they're not stuck to be there. As long as they feel like they always have the ability to move, you know, I would way rather have one move sideways or jump sideways or do something versus feel like they don't have another option, so they kick or strike or act out because they don't have the ability to get out of there. So again, a lot of your negative behavior comes from that claustrophobia, or that lack of confidence in moving their feet. So, okay. So we're about 15 minutes from switching horses, so I'll see if I can finish with her on getting up here and, again, for lack of better terms, kind of putting the first ride on her, I guess. You know, and again, my program changes quite a bit, you know, and that doesn't mean I go completely 180 degrees a different direction, but I'm always tweaking things, I guess, you know. And again, every single day that I go out there, I'm trying to find a more efficient and more effective way to do the same thing I've been doing. You know, and again, that's the cool part about it is nobody has it figured out yet. So, you know, it's kind of a fun and inspiring thing to realize that nobody has the answer. So, you know, on any given day, it could just pop out there and show itself to you. You know, and again, that doesn't mean that there aren't difficult days, but if you have the mindset that regardless of what they do, negative or positive, you can build something productive out of it, you know, in my mind, there's never a non-productive training session. You know, obviously there's some days that are less work than others, or maybe it feels like you got more done, but you know, again, even the bad days are necessary to the final product, because those days have to happen so that the good days really stand apart. So, and again, this obviously isn't starting from scratch because we worked on this the last two demonstrations. But basically what we worked on the last two demonstrations was getting control of those feet, connecting that halter to their feet and their hip and whatever it might be. You know, we were leaning over onto her from Pepsi's back, climbed over onto her off of Pepsi's back and sat on her. So, I mean, all these little steps should build the next step, you know, and again, that's where your program, you know, really ties itself together, so that every single thing I do has a purpose. You know, there's nothing I do, no matter how subtle or tiny or big it is, that doesn't have a cause or isn't there for a reason. So, like I say, I don't do anything that I don't do for a reason, I guess. And so before I go up here, and again, it's all about tying everything from the ground up to their back. So essentially, everything that I ask for down here and the way I apply pressure and the point of pressure and the relief should essentially be theoretically the same identical thing to once I get on their back, the only difference being I'm up there instead of down here. So in my mind, you know, on a young horse, and this is a big reason I do these in-between stages is, you know, again, years ago, we would get to where we could rub on them and we'd get a saddle on them, and then the next move was, you know, we put a saddle on, front cinch, back cinch, saddle blanket, climbed up on their back, and we expected them to ride around. So there's, from a young horse's perspective, there's a big gap in there that where nothing ties together. Like there's nothing that they can correlate it to. Where what I'm trying to do now is fill that gap. So essentially, you know, if by the time I get to actually putting a saddle on them, you know, whether it's through the use of a belly rope or teaching them how to connect to their feet and set pressure while I'm still on the ground but still over the back, and then from there, you know, I expect this to be soft. I expect their feet to be loose, you know, and then get to where you can hold your pressure there, and they should accept that. You know, switch sides, do the same deal, and again, there shouldn't be, if you're connecting your steps, there shouldn't be anything new that you introduce that is a big project, because again, there should be some aspect of it that links to the previous step, and if not, then you have a previous step missing. So, and again, all these, you know, if I would have done that, something as simple as that, if I would have done that without doing what we've done the last two demonstrations, she probably would have got pretty worried and shuffled her feet around here, maybe would have spooked or whatever. But again, because of what we've done, you know, this all makes sense to her already. So, okay, now here's another deal too that I'll do, and I call it putting your first ride on it before you ever ride them, is, you know, again, not everybody wants to get on a young horse bareback in a halter, and I don't blame them for that. And not all horses are ready for that either necessarily. But one thing you can do is, as long as I'm not committed over halfway, you know, the cool part about this is I can essentially mimic that first ride, because my feet are off the ground, they're bearing all my weight, I'm up here on both sides, you know, to where I should be able to jump up here, smooch, ask them to move their feet, and have it be controlled. And if for some reason they don't move their feet, or they aren't free, or they, for lack of better terms, lose their mind and try to run off, I'm this far from dropping back down to the previous step where I can recorrect it again. So again, versus just swinging all the way on. So I'll do that again. Make sure she's soft, and every step that I take, we always touch base on again as we go. Good. And so what I'm looking for is that she stays soft, she moves her feet free, and is controlled, and always reconnects to me, okay? And the cool part about this is, once you go through all this process, and I think of it as an investment, is 99% of the time, once you go through this and you dedicate an extra 1 or 2 days, when it comes time to put the saddle on, I mean, you can essentially saddle them like an old horse and go right off, because you've already taught them how to hold your weight, how to move their feet to find their relief from pressure when you're up on their back. You know, basically everything is already there, except for the saddle, you know, where the alternative is adding the saddle, which is new, adding the cinches, which is new, you know, getting up on their back, which is new, you know, all that stuff all happens at once, and if that horse doesn't know the answer, you know, how are we surprised that they don't, you know, a lot of the times, you know, get worried, get anxious, you know, act out, whether it's bucking or afraid to move their feet or whatever it might be. So again, I'm just basically trying to teach them every little step, so that once the saddle comes into play, all those steps are already there. So, okay, now this is where our groundwork comes into play, because she doesn't know what she's doing right now. But what she does know is that if she follows her nose and yields it through her feet, the pressure leaves. And that's all that I need her to do right now. So like I say, she doesn't have any idea that she's doing the right thing. All she knows is that she's doing what she knows. And in her mind, she's just trying to do something that she's done in the past. But where my part as a trainer comes into play is, the more I can correlate what I did on the ground to what I'm asking her to do right here, you know, I'd say a large majority of the time, if not almost all the time, you can get up here and they'll essentially be like this as soon as you climb on their back, especially like the ones that are in the right frame of mind and really are trying. You know, because again, I'm not asking her for anything that she hasn't already done multiple times before I got up here. The only new thing in the whole equation is I'm up here instead of down there, but same deal. You know, I started down beside her first and got this. So what I'm looking for here is for her to just stay relaxed. You know, if she wants to stop, that's fine. If she wants to stop, as long as she doesn't stop just because she's sulking. And if she saddles, because if you do add too much and that horse doesn't understand that moving their feet is a way to find the relief, you know, again, a horse can tie this to that previous step a lot simpler than if she went from being, you know, without anything on her, just in a halter, and then all of a sudden she has a saddle strapped on her back and I'm up there too. You know, that's where, you know, they'll be afraid to move because they've never moved with one before. But I'm essentially teaching her everything she needs to know once the saddle goes on her back. Because again, once the saddle goes up there, it'll be the first time, but she's going to try to correlate what she's already learned. And what she's already learned is when I'm up here and I smooch and I ask her to go somewhere, relief isn't moving her feet. So we can add the saddle and it's going to be different, but she's going to try to mimic this stage right here. For those of you that were here earlier, and obviously, you know, if you've been following it, Blue Bonnet has kind of been our big driving force behind her this year as far as keeping the nutrition for her and the feed and all that. So, you know, like I say, that helped us a ton, and again, trying to supply whoever it is that wins this with the best prospect we could give them, you know. So can you read this? No? The winner of this year's second annual Blue Bonnet Feeds Dollar Prospect is Colby Marie Robertson from Michigan. She's 16 years old, and I think we have, I don't know, are we on a live feed right now too? To where this should be on Facebook right now, I think through maybe the Blue Bonnet Feeds Facebook page, so go there and watch it, or if you are watching it, we're recording it too, so we'll try to post it on ours, and we'll try to do a follow-up, you know, and keep updated on Pearl as she advances, and yeah, so congratulations to Colby. Hopefully she'll do great things with her and long good, and we'll look forward to doing it again next year and keep it going. So with that, we appreciate you guys all coming out here. We appreciate, for those of you that came to all three of our demonstrations and have been to our demonstrations at our other locations. Again, thanks, with this being our last demo, thanks, a big thanks to our sponsors, Sutton Rodeo for letting us come back again, Blue Bonnet Feeds for helping us with our feed program at home and with our own horses and training program, and with the Dollar Prospect, Platt Livestock, Dutton Beds, 5-star pads. You can see all the ones on our shirts, Midwest Liquid Feeds. What's that?
Oh, Common Sense.
Oh yeah, Common Sense Manufacturing. We've been tied up here, and I haven't been able to get around to everybody that I wanted to, but I talked to Kelly Mealy's here a couple days ago, and I know they've been swamped with getting products made or whatever, and the demand is really high for them, and you know, all of our bale feeders and continuous fence for all of our horse yards and our arena fence and all that is Common Sense, and you know, and Kelly, along with all of our other sponsors, you know, they're a good example of everybody that we partner with or are sponsors with. You know, it's really important to us, like our name quality and our program quality, along with the people that we partner with. I mean, character and quality of people is huge for us. So, like I say, all those folks are good examples of that. You know, everybody that you see supporting us and everything else, like I say, there's a reason that we like to work with them, and it's important. So